Hello everyone, I hope you're all doing well. Today was the third day of the month of Ramadan. So I wanted to answer two questions that I keep hearing about fasting. And in fact, I received a comment that really just made me realize that there's still some misunderstandings about how to fast. So I want to clarify that. So the first thing is this question. It says the original Quranic fasting of not talking to any human beings, this question, doesn't make sense given that most people have office work. So I hear that a lot. So let me just ask you this. So when was the Quran revealed? Quran was revealed about 1400 years ago. Is that correct? And what kind of jobs did people have back then in Arabia? Did people have offices back then? Did people work in corporations, in air-conditioned rooms? No, that was not the case. In fact, most of the jobs, most of them, 99.9% of them were physical jobs. You worked in farms, you built things, blacksmith, agriculture, working with animals, and planting trees and all these things. People did not have office work back then. So let me ask you this, considering the fact and the kind of jobs that were available back then, let me ask you this, did a fast of not eating and drinking make any sense back then in that environment? That's why you really have to, before you say something, you have to think about it. Remember, Allah, our Creator, has given us 2 ears and 1 mouth. It means you have to listen more and just think more. So back then it would not make sense. Even the idea of having a not fast of not eating and drinking would not make sense, because most of what people did back then, 99% of what people did back then was hard physical labor, that you actually had to go and do a lot of hard physical job. Not only that, no other religious community had such a fast. We know with Christians and Jews, every once in a while when they were mourning, they would deprive themselves of not eating or drinking, but that was mostly because of mourning. It was a period of mourning for something. Now my question for you is, what are we mourning? Are we mourning the revelation of the Quran? Are we mourning the appointment of Prophet Muhammad? Are we mourning the foundation of the religion of Islam? What are we mourning? We're not mourning anything, and no community back then had such long-term fasting of not eating or drinking. In fact, they still don't. So what are we supposed to do if we cannot fast due to work? And that is a great question. It happens to all of us, right? It happens to me as well. So if you cannot fast, Allah knows that. We are living in different day and age. Remember, even for the fasting, those verses are for Medina, when they actually had a community of believers. We don't have those accommodations that people had back then. The world is a different place. So if we can't fast, we don't have a community, and our jobs cannot accommodate that, i.e. we cannot take time off, what we can do is basically feed one poor person based on the average of what we eat for each day. For example, you have to feed 30 people for 30 days for one person. So if you and your wife are not fasting, and you cannot fast due to work reasons, so you have to feed 60 people combined. And there are a lot of charities across the world, especially here in the US. I know there's a lot of them. You basically give them the money and tell them how many people you want to feed, and they actually do that for you if you don't have the time. On the other hand, you can go to various areas in every city. There are these areas, there are people who are unhoused, and the people who are not fortunate enough to have housing, and you can actually go and feed them in the streets yourself. So there's so many options available to you that you can do. Also, you can probably fast during Saturdays and Sundays and take a few days every week and fast majority of the days. Again, it's up to you. If you have problems fasting, you can actually feed one poor person per day. So hopefully that answered that question. And remember, the world we are living in, it's literally past 100, 150 years, 200 years that the world has become so complicated and complex. That was not the case before. So in the grand scheme of things, 1200 years versus 200 years, which fast do you think does not make sense? I think I heard it right. It's the fast of not eating or drinking. The other question I hear is that, does it mean we cannot send text messages or make comments on YouTube videos? The Quran is referring to talking or speaking when a person opens their mouth and their voice is heard. So, for example, when Allah is talking directly to Moses, that was considered talking in the Quran. Even though Moses does not see Allah, the verb Allah uses is kallama yukallimu taklim. It means when I'm facing you and we are talking to each other, or you can hear my voice. That's what it means. Remember, there was no text messaging back then. So that's not even an option to even consider. Plus, when you're text messaging someone, you're not opening your mouth, you're not talking, your voice is not being heard. So that has nothing to do with this fasting. So when you are text messaging someone, or when you are making a comment on a YouTube video, you're not breaking your fast. I just want to make sure you understand that. However, if your mom or if your wife or if your father calls you and you pick up the phone and you start talking to them, you're actually talking. So that's the time when you're breaking your fast. I hope this is clear. Or when you see your friend, you start having a conversation on that's talking. When you have a Zoom meeting with someone and you start talking and you start conversing with each other, that's a conversation. That falls under that category of those verbs. Kallama yukallimu taklim. And that's what the words in the Quran has been used. That's what it means. So it doesn't apply to text messages. It doesn't apply to Twitter. It doesn't apply to comments on YouTube. I just want to make sure you are clear on that. So you can do everything. You just cannot enter into a conversation, be it telephonic, be it through Zoom, or be it in person when you start talking with your voice. That's all. So you don't need to make it any more difficult on you. That's what the Quran says. Quran is very clear on that verb when it's used. And again, one more time, it's the verb of kallama yukallimu taklim. So feel free to message people with a text without using your voice. So as long as that's fine, you're not doing anything wrong, okay? Hopefully I just clarified that for you. My goal is in this month to make many videos for those of my brothers and sisters who have the same true religion of the Quran as I do. My goal is to stimulate your thinking and to present you with a lot of Quranic material. Hopefully you will enjoy that, and may Allah accept it from us. Peace and blessings to all of you.